Hello, everyone. Welcome to English Insights. My name is Emma. Today, I want to share my personal story about learning English. A few months ago, my English was not very good. I knew some grammar and vocabulary, but I could not speak confidently. I often felt nervous when I tried to talk in English. Listening to native speakers was also very difficult for me. But something surprising happened. In only 2 months, my English improved a lot. I started to speak more clearly and understand much more when people talked. My friends were very surprised. Many people asked me the same question. How did you improve your English so quickly? In this video, I will share my real experience and the simple methods that helped me. I believe anyone can improve their English with the right practice and the right mindset. If I could do it, you can do it too. Now, let's start the story.
Part 1. My English Before the Change.
Before I started my 2-month journey, my English was not very good. I studied English for many years in school. I learned grammar rules and memorized many vocabulary words. I could read simple texts and sometimes write short sentences, but when it was time to speak, everything became difficult. My mind suddenly felt empty. When someone asked me a question in English, I needed a lot of time to answer. I tried to think about grammar first, then I tried to remember the right words. Because of this, my speaking was very slow and not natural. Sometimes I knew the answer in my language, but I could not say it in English. Listening was also a big problem for me. When teachers spoke slowly, I could understand them, but when I watched movies or listened to real conversations, it was very hard. Native speakers talked too fast. Many words sounded different from what I learned in school. Because of this, I often felt confused. Another problem was that I forgot words very easily. When I studied vocabulary, I could remember the words for a short time, but when I tried to use them in conversation, I forgot them. This made me feel embarrassed. Sometimes I stopped speaking in the middle of a sentence because I did not know the next word. I also felt very nervous when I spoke English with other people. My heart started beating faster. I worried that people would laugh at my mistakes. Because of this fear, I tried to avoid speaking English whenever possible. If someone spoke English to me, I often answered with very short sentences. For a long time, I accepted this situation. I thought my English would always stay at the same level. But one day, something changed my thinking. I realized that English is very important in today's world. I wanted to travel to other countries one day. I also wanted better study and job opportunities in the future. I knew that if I wanted these opportunities, I needed better English. I could not continue avoiding the language. I had to face my fear and start learning in a different way. So, one day, I made an important decision. I decided to take my English learning seriously and change my habits completely.
Part 2. My 2-month learning plan.
After I decided to improve my English, the first thing I did was create a simple learning plan. I knew that I needed a clear routine. Without a plan, it would be easy to lose motivation. So I made a daily schedule that I could follow every day. My goal was not to study all day. Instead, I planned to study English for about 2 to 3 hours each day. This time was enough for practice, but it was not too stressful. I wanted learning to feel natural and enjoyable. In my plan, I focused on 4 important skills. These skills were listening, speaking, reading, and vocabulary. I believed that these 4 skills would help me communicate better in English. I did not focus too much on difficult grammar rules. Instead, I wanted to understand and use the language in real situations. Another important idea in my plan was consistency. I promised myself that I would practice every single day. Even on busy days, I tried to study for at least a short time. I believed that small daily progress was better than long study sessions only once a week. I also decided not to learn everything at the same time. English is a big language, and trying to learn too much can make people feel tired. So I focused on simple and useful English. I learned words and sentences that people use in daily life. This made my learning more practical. My daily schedule was very simple. In the morning, I usually practiced listening. I listened to short English videos or podcasts. Sometimes I listened to the same audio many times. This helped my ears become familiar with English sounds. In the afternoon, I spent time reading and learning vocabulary. I read short articles, simple stories, or easy news. When I found new words, I wrote them in a small notebook. I also tried to learn phrases instead of single words. This helped me understand how words are used together. In the evening, I focused on speaking practice. This was the most important part of my day. Sometimes I spoke to myself. I described my day or talked about simple topics. Other times, I practiced with language partners online. Having a clear plan helped me a lot. Every day, I knew exactly what to do. I did not waste time thinking about where to start. Because of this routine, my learning became more organized. After a few weeks, I started to see real improvement in my English skills.
Part 3. The listening method that helped me most.
Listening was the most important skill in my English journey. Before I started my 2-month plan, listening was very difficult for me. When native speakers talked, I could only understand a few words. Their speech sounded too fast. Sometimes the words also sounded different from what I learned in school. Because of this problem, I decided to focus on listening practice every day. I started with very simple English videos and podcasts. These materials were made for English learners, so the speakers talked slowly and clearly. This made it easier for me to follow the conversation. At the beginning, I could not understand everything. Sometimes I only understood the main topic. But I did not worry about this. I told myself that it was normal. My goal was not to understand every single word. Instead, I tried to understand the general meaning of the message. Another important method I used was listening to the same audio many times. The first time, I only listened and tried to understand the main idea. The second time, I paid more attention to the words and sentences. The third time, I started to notice pronunciation and speaking rhythm. Repeating the same audio helped my brain become familiar with English sounds. Slowly, I started to recognize more words. Sentences that were difficult before became easier to understand. I also practiced a technique called shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a speaker and repeating what they say at the same time or right after them. At first, this was very hard for me. The speaker talked faster than I could repeat. But I continued practicing every day. I did not try to be perfect. I only tried to follow the speaker's voice and rhythm. After some time, my mouth started to move more naturally when I spoke English. Shadowing helped me improve my pronunciation. It also helped me understand how English sentences flow together. I learned where speakers pause and how they stress important words. Every day, I spent about 30 to 40 minutes on listening practice. Sometimes I listened while walking or doing simple tasks at home. This made practice easier and more relaxed. After a few weeks, I started to notice big changes. I could understand more words in conversations. English videos became easier to follow. Even when I did not know some words, I could still understand the main idea. This progress gave me more confidence. I realized that listening practice was slowly training my brain to understand English naturally. It became one of the most powerful methods in my 2-month learning journey.
Part 4. How I Practice Speaking Every Day.
Speaking was the skill that I feared the most before I started my learning plan. I often felt nervous when I tried to speak English. My sentences were slow, and I worried a lot about mistakes. Because of this fear, I usually stayed quiet in English conversations. But during my 2-month journey, I made an important decision. I told myself that I would speak English every single day. It did not matter if my English was not perfect. The most important thing was to practice. At the beginning, I practiced speaking by talking to myself. This method may sound strange, but it helped me a lot. When I was alone in my room, I described simple things in English. For example, I talked about my daily activities. I said things like, "Today, I woke up at 7," or "I am going to study English this afternoon." I also tried to describe things around me. If I saw a cup, a book, or a phone, I tried to explain it in English. This simple exercise helped my brain think in English. I did not need another person to practice, so I could do it anytime. After some time, I started practicing simple conversations. I imagined that I was talking to another person. I asked questions and answered them by myself. For example, I practiced conversations about hobbies, food, travel, and daily life. Later, I began using language learning apps and online speaking platforms. These platforms helped me find people who also wanted to practice English. Some were English learners like me, and others were native speakers who wanted to help. At first, I was still nervous during these conversations. Sometimes I forgot words or made grammar mistakes. But I reminded myself that mistakes are a normal part of learning. Instead of feeling embarrassed, I tried to learn from each mistake. In fact, mistakes helped me improve faster. When I made a mistake, I remembered the correct form more easily. Each conversation became a learning experience. After a few weeks, something interesting happened. Speaking English started to feel more natural. I did not need to think so much before talking. Words came to my mind more quickly. My sentences were still simple, but they were clearer and more confident. I also felt less afraid when talking with other people. Daily speaking practice slowly changed my attitude toward English. Instead of feeling nervous, I started to enjoy conversations. My confidence grew stronger each week. By the end of the 2 months, I realized that speaking English was no longer something that scared me. It had become a normal and comfortable part of my daily life.
Part 5. Vocabulary and Simple Thinking in English.
Another important change in my learning method was how I studied vocabulary. Before my 2-month plan, I usually tried to memorize long lists of words. I wrote many new words in a notebook and tried to remember them one by one. But this method did not help me very much. I often forgot the words after a few days. During my new learning journey, I decided to change my approach. Instead of memorizing long lists, I focused on learning useful and common words. These were words that people use in daily life. For example, I learned words related to food, travel, work, and daily activities. I also started learning phrases instead of single words. A phrase is a group of words that people often use together. For example, instead of only learning the word decision, I learned the phrase make a decision. This helped me understand how words work together in real sentences. Learning phrases made speaking easier for me. When I wanted to say something, I could remember the whole phrase instead of building the sentence word by word. This saved time and made my speech sound more natural. Another important habit I developed was thinking in English. Before, when I wanted to speak English, I first thought in my native language. Then I translated the sentence into English. This process was slow and sometimes confusing. So I started practicing thinking directly in English. At first, this was not easy, but I began with very simple ideas. For example, when I looked at objects around me, I described them in my mind. I thought things like, "This is a small table," or "The window is open." I also practiced thinking about my daily plans in English. In the morning, I told myself things like, "Today I will study English for 2 hours," or "In the evening, I will watch an English video." These small exercises helped my brain become more comfortable with English. Slowly, I did not need to translate from my native language anymore. After some time, I noticed a big improvement in my speaking. My sentences became faster and more natural. I could express my ideas more easily. Learning useful vocabulary and thinking in English helped me become more fluent. It was not about knowing thousands of difficult words. It was about using simple words and phrases in a natural way every day.
Part 6. My results after 2 months.
After 2 months of daily practice, I began to see real changes in my English. The improvement was not magic, but it was very clear. I could speak more easily than before. My sentences were still simple, but they were more natural and confident. One of the biggest improvements was in my listening. Before, I could only understand a few words when native speakers talked, but after many weeks of listening practice, things became easier. I could follow simple videos and conversations without feeling lost. Even when I did not understand every word, I could still understand the main idea. My speaking also improved a lot. I was able to have simple conversations with other learners and sometimes with native speakers. These conversations were not perfect, but they were real communication. People could understand what I wanted to say, and this made me very happy. Another big change was my confidence. In the past, I was afraid of making mistakes. I worried that people would judge my English. But during these 2 months, I learned that mistakes are a normal part of learning. Every mistake helped me understand the language better. Because of this new attitude, speaking English became less stressful. I stopped trying to be perfect. Instead, I focused on sharing my ideas and understanding others. This made communication much easier. I also felt proud of my progress. 2 months before, I was very nervous about speaking English. Now I could talk about my daily life, my hobbies, and my plans. This change gave me strong motivation to continue learning. Of course, my English is still not perfect. I still make mistakes sometimes. I still learn new words and practice my listening. Language learning is a long journey, and I know that there is always more to learn. Before ending the story, I want to share a few simple pieces of advice. First, practice English every day, even if it is only for a short time. Daily practice helps your brain become familiar with the language. Second, do not be afraid of mistakes. Mistakes are your teachers. They help you grow and improve. Finally, focus on communication. The goal of language is to share ideas and connect with people. If you stay consistent and believe in yourself, improvement is possible. Anyone can learn to speak English better with time and practice.